We're about to discover the majestic Dunhill Namiki Yoshitsune, a Maki-e fountain pen limited to only 15 pieces in the whole world. Hey good fellas, I'm Naldi and we are at Style of Zug. Some stories deserve to be told more than once. So we're taking another dive into one of the most incredible and breathtaking Maki-e fountain pens ever made. Probably also one of the most limited modern Maki-e, a so-called Dunhill Namiki Maki-e fountain pen. And good fellas, we have the goal of reaching 50,000 subscribers this year, so why don't you subscribe to the channel? I know that a lot of you watching are not subscribers yet. It's totally free and you won't miss out on any future content that we're coming up with. And trust me, we have some exciting things that will be released on this channel. So in a previous video, we've explored 3 extraordinary Dunhill Namiki Maki-e masterpieces. We had the turtle, we had the kingfisher, and we also had the Yoshitsune. And each single one is a marvel of craftsmanship, no discussion about that, but the Yoshitsune kind of plays in a league by its own for the way how it's done, for the layers, for the incredible techniques that have been used and how the pen just looks when you have it in your hand and when you're looking at it. So I thought that this piece here deserves once again a special spotlight and that we need to dive a bit deeper into the history and everything that revolves around this writing instrument here. But like we often do, before we dive deep into the specific pen that we have here, let's first go a bit deeper into the history of Dunhill Namiki, because by understanding the history of Dunhill Namiki, we also understand why this piece here has a certain relevance. And what is wonderful about this partnership between Dunhill and Namiki is the fact that it's a result of an historical partnership between 2 brands that represents the highest standards of excellence in their respective fields. Namiki is Japan's premier maker of Maki-e fountain pens and has mastered the art of urushi lacquer, gold dust techniques, of mother of pearl inlays, or as it's called, rodden technique. But it's interesting to know that without Dunhill, the brand probably would never be where it is right now. And it wouldn't have reached so many collectors worldwide. Back in the early 20th century, we're talking round about 1920, 2 key figures of Dunhill and of Namiki, we're talking about Mr. Setsuji Wada for Namiki and Mr. Clément Cour for Dunhill, went on an incredible journey to promote Namiki around Europe and also around Asia. That happened after that Mr. Yosuke Namiki, Mr. Setsuji Wada, and also the brothers Dunhill came together and understood what incredible artistry these Japanese-made Maki-e pens had, and the fact that they could actually partner up with a brand such as Dunhill, which had already quite a distribution and an important name in Europe, and bring this artistry to collectors all around the world. And after this first attempt, they had a huge success and decided that yes, Namiki pens had to be distributed through Dunhill, and therefore they created this so-called Dunhill Namiki partnership. And so Dunhill became the exclusive distributor of Namiki pens all around the world. This was the collaboration, as I already kind of mentioned to you, that gave the chance for people to discover the craftsmanship behind Namiki. And let's not forget that Namiki has an important place in the world of luxury because it is the brand, and Mr. Yosuke Namiki was the person who reintroduced and reinforced and reworked on everything that was the art of lacquering, of urushi, of Maki-e on beautiful object as a form of art. Later on, they also created the Kokokai group, which would help preserve and train new people when it comes to become Maki-e masters. And all of these elements make Namiki and also the partnership between Dunhill and Namiki one of the most important ever in the world, and for sure in the field of craftsmanship. But I did a whole video about this whole history of Namiki, of Dunhill Namiki. It's up here. Go check it out after you've watched this video here. And now we're going to unveil the pen, we're going to discover it, and first thing that we're going to do right after we have unboxed it, it's to discover who Yoshitsune was and what the topic of this pen is all about. Minamoto no Yoshitsune is one of Japan's most legendary samurai. He's known for his intelligence, speed, and the bold military strategies. He played a key role in the Genpei War, a conflict between the Minamoto and the Taira clans in the late 12th century. And his most famous moment, which made him also a legend, came at the Battle of Ishinotani. Facing a heavily fortified Taira army, Yoshitsune devised an unthinkable strategy, which was that he and his men descended an almost vertical cliff on horseback to launch a surprise attack. This absolutely fearless move turned the tide of the battle and secured a major victory for the Minamoto clan. And now you have to imagine the scene: warriors on horseback navigating a near impossible descent with nothing but skills and courage keeping them from falling from the horse. And this whole moment, this whole history is captured in an absolutely brilliant way on this emperor-sized writing instrument of Dunhill Namiki. Designed and painted by Mr. Seiki Shida, which is a master of the Kokokai group I was telling you about, this specific piece here is limited to only 15 pieces in the world. Now you have to think about it: the Kingfisher and the Turtle, which were released in 2008 and 2010, were limited to 25 pieces. So for this edition of 2019, they produced 10 pieces less than the Kingfisher and the Turtle, which makes it automatically the most limited modern Dunhill Namiki. It is painted on an emperor-sized fountain pen, but it's interesting to see that the Dunhill Namiki are even bigger than the classic flat-tops emperors of Namiki, like for example the goldfish, and that definitely also adds an additional layer of a specialty when it comes to Dunhill Namiki fountain pens. On the barrel, you see that there is Yoshitsune depicted in its full samurai armor, riding his horse down the steep cliff and leading his warriors into the battle. And his figure here is enhanced by Raden, which is mother of pearl or abalone inlays on his back, which creates a shimmering effect, making him stand out as if he would be in motion. The cliff is rendered in Tokidashi Maki-e, where layers of lacquer and gold dust create incredible depth and contrast. This technique makes the scene feel very dynamic, as if Yoshitsune is truly doing this descent. On the cap, once again, we see the Tokidashi Maki-e technique that depicts the cliff, depicts the single warriors that are descending the cliff and heading into the base camp of the Taira clan. And what's also just incredible, right above the base camp of the Taira clan, we can see the sea, and the Raden that is inlaid on the sea gives it such an incredible shimmering effect, almost like waves that are actually moving. I think this is such an incredible detail that makes this writing instrument so magical. You have the details of the nature of the warriors, as I told you, and all over the cap we also have the gold dust, which gives it an additional layer of brilliant look, but also of dynamism, like if the painting on the writing instrument is coming alive. The barrel and the cap give an incredible visual story, and it's pretty much an artwork that instead of having it on a big canvas, you have it on such a small and incredible item that represents something for humankind. It represents the power of communication. Let's not forget the amount of detailing that comes into the miniature painting in Maki-e and the different layers that are applied in order to give this effect and also to give these different colors and depth. And then of course we have the nib, which is in 18 karat solid gold. It's an emperor-sized nib, but made especially for this specific writing instrument. The nib of the turtle was different, the nib of the kingfisher was different. This one is a bit more classic, without any doubt, to depict and take the spirit and elegance of a samurai. Look at it, at the beauty. Dunhill Namiki, 18 karat, 750. If you own this writing instrument and you would like to actually fill it up, you can do so using an eyedropper. But now that we've talked about the writing instrument itself, in order to understand it better, I would like to describe as best as possible how this work is technically made. Maki-e is an ancient Japanese lacquer technique dating back over 1,000 years to around the Hainan period, which lasted from 794 to 1185. And the term Maki-e literally means sprinkled pitcher, referring to the delicate process of dusting gold or silver powder onto lacquer to create intricate designs. How poetic is that? And what makes this technique truly remarkable begins with the use of urushi, a natural tree sap carefully tapped from the lacquer tree, much like collecting rubber or maple syrup. And artisans make small incisions in the trunk that allow the sap to slowly seep out. What's important is that this cut cannot be too deep and it also cannot be too light, otherwise you wouldn't have the right kind of sap coming out, or if you go too deep you would risk to actually damage the tree forever. You have this raw material that is then refined and applied in multiple layers into an object, in this case on the Dunhill Namiki Yoshitsune pen. And you have to think about this, that each thin coat of urushi must be left to cure in a warm, slightly humid environment, allowing a chemical process called polymerization to occur. And this can take days or weeks just for one specific layer. And for example, such a writing instrument made by Saiki Shida, which is the master, and there's also specific masters within the Kokokai group that can create such a writing instruments after 20-30 years of experience. It takes 6 to 8 months between the layers that have to be painted or applied and the polymerization that needs to occur between the layers. Once the base is ready, the artisan starts painting the design in fresh lacquer, and before this layer dries, they sprinkle fine gold or maybe even silver powder, and they also maybe embellish it with shimmering rodden. And then there's a final coat that is also put over this whole lacquering process once it's dried, which temporarily conceals the whole drawing. And after one more curing time, the piece is then being polished and it reveals the whole beautiful lacquering and painting and all materials that have been applied on this specific writing instrument. It's really like unearthing a hidden treasure, and made possible only with incredible skill, patience and artistry. So we can really appreciate the craft after knowing all of this, knowing that it goes beyond the beauty, beyond the limitation, beyond also simply the work. There is history behind that. There is 20-30 years of training before you can even go and create such an incredible writing instrument and such a design. And then there is months and months of work of making sure that also the writing instrument within the different months and within the different layers of work doesn't get damaged, and therefore months of work get destroyed. So that requires really an incredible process that probably only Japanese can actually make to this point and to this stage. We have centuries of Japanese craftsmanship and history on one writing instrument of Dunhill Namiki that only 15 people in the whole world will own. And maybe you find it interesting to know how much such a Dunhill Namiki, runs for. Well, I'm gonna tell you that it runs for $67,500 US, and it's available only via direct enquiries. Well, good fellas, at this point, my question is from 1 to 10, how much do you cherish a pen like this? And where would you place such a work of art within the incredible writing instruments that are available on the market? Let me know down in the comments, and remember that each time that you comment on a video, you're also giving your expertise, your opinion, and people are reading that, and that adds up so much to the community and to the video itself. Sometimes it's even more important than the video itself. You are part of this community and you are shaping this community of good fellows that appreciate fine writing instruments. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for other videos that are coming up, and don't forget that together we are changing the game.